I, 19M, got into a serious accident last month that has completely changed my relationship with my family, especially my parents and sister. I'm still trying to process everything that happened, but I'll try to explain the situation as clearly as I can. I'm a freshman in college, about 2 hours away from my hometown. My sister, 25F, had a baby last year, and since then, my family dynamics have changed completely. My parents have always favored her a bit, but things got really extreme after my nephew was born. They started spending all their time with her and the baby, which I understood at first because he's their first grandchild. My sister has always been the golden child. She got married right after college to a guy our parents approved of, had a baby within a year, and basically did everything according to their plan. I, on the other hand, chose to go to college farther from home because they had a better program for my major, engineering. My parents weren't happy about this because they wanted me to go to the local college where my sister went. The accident happened on March 15th. I had evening classes that day and was driving back to my dorm around 8 p.m. My friends Jake and Mike were in their car behind me because we had all stayed late at the library studying for midterms. We were at an intersection, and I had a green light. Out of nowhere, this truck ran the red light and slammed into my car. I don't remember much after the impact, but my friends told me my car spun several times before stopping. Jake and Mike immediately called 911 and then tried to help me. I was conscious but in a lot of pain. They said I kept asking them to call my parents, so they did. This is where things get really messed up. When they called my parents to tell them I'd been in a serious accident and was being taken to the hospital, my mom's first response was that they couldn't come because they were at my nephew's first birthday party. My friends couldn't believe it. They explained that it was serious, I was bleeding and clearly had broken bones. My parents still refused to come. They said they had about 50 guests at the house, including all our relatives who had traveled from different cities, and they couldn't just leave. My dad got on the phone and said I was probably just being dramatic and to just take me to the hospital and send them the bills. The doctors later told me I had a broken leg, 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding, and needed immediate surgery. Since I'm 19, they needed a family member to sign some consent forms. My friends called my parents again, but they just told the hospital over the phone to do whatever was needed. They didn't even ask about my condition or how serious it was. My friends were amazing through all this. They stayed with me, called their parents who rushed to the hospital, and handled everything they could. Jake's mom is a nurse, though at a different hospital, and she helped explain everything to me. Mike's dad offered to sign the consent forms when my parents refused to come, but the hospital needed a family member. That's when Jake remembered my grandfather. My grandfather, 75M, has always been close to me. He taught me how to drive, came to all my school events, and was basically more of a father figure than my actual dad. He was supposed to be at the birthday party too since he had driven down from his city, about 4 hours away, for it. When my friends called him and told him what happened, he left the party immediately. My sister later told me he didn't even say goodbye to anyone, just got up and left as soon as he got the call. He drove 4 hours to get to my hospital, breaking several speed limits on the way. When he arrived and saw my condition, I saw him cry for the first time in my life. He was absolutely furious when he found out my parents had refused to come. He called them right there in front of me, and I could hear my mom trying to justify that they couldn't leave the party because it would disappoint all the guests. My dad got on the phone and started saying that I must have been driving recklessly because I always speed, which is not true. My grandfather taught me to be a very careful driver. When my grandfather told them that my friends saw everything and had dashcam footage showing the truck running a red light, they still tried to blame me. My grandfather stayed with me for the entire week after my surgery. He's retired but used to be a business owner, so he knows how to handle things. He dealt with all the paperwork, talked to the doctors, and made sure I got the best care possible. Meanwhile, my parents didn't visit me even once. My sister sent me a text saying I was being selfish and taking attention away from her son's special day. She said her son would never forgive me for ruining his first birthday by making our grandfather leave. Yesterday, everything got even more complicated. My grandfather told me that he had planned to give my nephew $50,000 on his birthday as a gift. He's quite wealthy from his business and has always been generous with family. But after seeing how my parents and sister treated me, he decided not to give them anything. Instead, he wants to help me with my medical bills and college expenses. Somehow my parents found out about this. They called me this morning and started screaming at me. They said I was manipulating my grandfather and stealing from my nephew. My dad threatened that if I accept any money from my grandfather, they'll kick me out of the house. I live with them during breaks, and I'll have to manage everything on my own. My mom said I was being ungrateful after everything they've done for me. I honestly don't know what to do. The medical bills are already over $100,000. Insurance will cover some of it, and we're suing the drunk driver, but that could take months or years. My friend's parents helped with the initial payments, but I need to pay them back. My grandfather wants to help me, and I really need the help, but my parents are threatening to cut me off completely. Edit. Thank you everyone for your responses. To clarify some points, yes, we're pressing charges against the drunk driver. My friends recorded everything on their dashcam so we have solid evidence. The driver's BAC was well over the legal limit. And no, my parents haven't always been this extreme. They started heavily favoring my sister after she had her baby because he's the first grandchild. Before that, things were okay, not great but okay. I feel like I haven't done anything wrong here, but my parents and sister are making me feel like I'm destroying the family. My grandfather says I should accept his help and not let them manipulate me, but I'm worried about completely losing my family over this. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my original post, and honestly, things have gotten even worse than I expected. I wanted to update everyone because the situation has completely spiraled out of control. First, my parents finally visited me in the hospital, but not because they wanted to. My grandfather got so angry about their behavior that he started calling all our relatives and telling them what happened. He told them how my parents refused to come to the hospital when I was seriously injured, how they blamed me for the accident without any evidence, and how they cared more about a party than their son's life. When word started spreading in the family, my parents suddenly decided they needed to make an appearance. They showed up last Friday, a full 10 days after my accident. Instead of asking how I was feeling or showing any concern, they immediately started attacking me. My mother actually had the nerve to accuse me of planning the whole accident. She said I deliberately got into an accident because I knew my grandfather would be at the birthday party, and this was my way of making him leave. According to her brilliant theory, I orchestrated getting hit by a drunk driver, breaking multiple bones, and needing emergency surgery just to spite my sister and ruin my nephew's party. When I pointed out how ridiculous that sounded and reminded her that I could have died, she started crying and saying I've always been jealous of my sister and her son. She brought up how I didn't seem excited enough when my nephew was born, I was in the middle of finals week, how I didn't visit enough during my first semester, I was adjusting to college and had a heavy course load, and how I didn't buy an expensive enough birthday gift. I'm a college student with a part-time job. My father wasn't any better. He stood there the whole time backing up everything my mother said. He even added that I was ungrateful for complaining about them not coming to the hospital because we raised you for 19 years, put a roof over your head, and this is how you repay us? When I reminded him that parents are supposed to take care of their children, he said I was being disrespectful. My sister showed up too, but her visit was even worse. She came in with pictures of her son's birthday party on her phone, showing me all the moments I ruined by making our grandfather leave. She said her son cried when his great-grandfather left early, he's one, he cries about everything, and now these pictures are tainted because they remind her of how I ruined the day. When I reminded her that her son is literally 1 year old and won't remember any of this, she called me heartless and said I'd never understand because I'm not a parent. But the worst part isn't even their visits, it's what they're doing behind my back. They've started spreading lies throughout our extended family. They're telling everyone that I was actually the one driving drunk, completely false. My blood work from the hospital proves I was completely sober, that I have a history of reckless driving, also false, I've never even had a ticket, and that I'm manipulating my grandfather to steal my nephew's inheritance. Some relatives have actually believed them. I've been getting messages calling me a terrible grandson, saying I'm tearing the family apart, and telling me to stop being selfish. My Aunt Maria, Mom's sister, even posted on Facebook about how some people would do anything for money, including manipulating elderly relatives. She didn't name me directly, but everyone knows who she's talking about. My grandfather found out about all this yesterday. He was already angry about how they treated me, but when he saw the lies they were spreading, he completely lost it. He drove to my parents' house and confronted them. According to my cousin who was there, she's on my side and tells me everything. It was intense. My grandfather told them they were terrible parents who cared more about appearances than their own son's life. He brought up how they never even asked about my surgery or recovery, how they didn't offer to help with medical bills, and how they were now trying to destroy my reputation to cover up their own failings as parents. My father apparently got really angry and told my grandfather to get out of his house. He said my grandfather had no right to tell them how to parent and that he was just playing favorites. My grandfather left, but not before telling them they would regret treating me this way. He said he's seen how they've favored my sister over me for years, but he never thought they'd stoop this low. I'm still in the hospital. The doctors say my ribs are healing well, but my leg will need more time. They're saying I'll need at least another month of physical therapy before I can even think about walking normally again. The pain is still pretty bad, but at least I have good people around me. My friends have been incredible, they take turns staying with me, bring me my assignments so I don't fall behind in classes, and even set up a small study group in my hospital room. My grandfather visits every day, helps with my exercises, and has been handling all the hospital bills so far. Today, my parents sent me what they called their final warning. They said if I don't refuse my grandfather's help and apologize to them and my sister for causing all this drama and ruining the birthday party, they'll not only kick me out but also make sure none of our relatives ever helps me again. They said they have evidence that I'm manipulating my grandfather. They don't, because I'm not, and they're not afraid to expose me to everyone. I haven't responded to their message yet. I'm tired of their threats and manipulation. My grandfather says I shouldn't worry about their threats because he'll always be there for me, but it still hurts to see my own parents turn against me like this. The doctors say stress isn't good for my recovery, But how can I not be stressed when my own family is trying to destroy me? Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and I can't believe what just happened. Everything changed today in a way I never expected. My grandfather came to visit me at the hospital this morning, but this time he brought his lawyer with him. I was nervous at first because I thought something was wrong, but then my grandfather told me the news. He's not just giving me the $50,000 anymore. He's also giving me his beach house. It's this beautiful 3-bedroom house right on the coast that he bought years ago as a vacation home. I've spent many summers there with him, learning to fish and swim. It's worth about $500,000, and he just signed it over to me. Here's the thing, this beach house was supposed to go to my sister. More specifically, my grandfather had planned to give it to my nephew when he turned 18 as a college fund. He had told my sister about this plan when my nephew was born, which explains why she's been so nice to him lately. She was never really close to him before. The lawyer had all the paperwork ready. My grandfather transferred both the money and the house to my name right there in my hospital room. He said he's been watching how my parents and sister have been behaving over the past month, and he's disgusted by their actions. He told me that family means showing up when someone needs you, not just when it's convenient. Of course, news travels fast in our family. Somehow, my parents found out within hours. My father actually stormed into my hospital room, something he hadn't bothered to do when I was having surgery. He was screaming about how I'd stolen their inheritance and manipulated my grandfather. He kept saying the beach house was meant for the family and I had no right to take it. The nurses had to call security to remove him because he wouldn't stop yelling. He was making such a scene that other patients' families came out to see what was happening. It was humiliating, but at least it showed everyone exactly who my father really is. My sister's reaction was even more dramatic. She called me crying hysterically, saying I've destroyed her son's future. She said she had already been planning what schools my nephew could attend with the money from selling the beach house. Then she revealed something I didn't know. She and my parents had been pressuring my grandfather to transfer the house to them now instead of waiting until my nephew turns 18. They wanted to sell it immediately and use the money for their own purposes, not for my nephew's education like they claimed. My grandfather confirmed this when I asked him about it. He said they'd been bothering him about the house for months, even before my accident. My father had some business debts he wanted to pay off, and my sister wanted to buy a bigger house. They saw the beach house as their solution and had been trying to convince my grandfather that they could invest the money better than he could. That's when everything clicked into place. Their extreme reaction to my grandfather helping me wasn't just about the $50,000, they were afraid he'd find out about their plans for the beach house. When he started spending more time with me in the hospital, they probably worried I'd turn him against them, which I never did. They managed it all on their own. The family is now completely divided over this. Some relatives, like my Aunt Maria and my mother's cousins, are saying I manipulated my grandfather and took advantage of his age. He's 75 but sharper than most 30-year-olds I know. They're spreading rumors that I guilt-tripped him by playing up my injuries. But other relatives are finally seeing through my parents' behavior. My grandfather's sister, my great-aunt, called me yesterday and told me she's ashamed she didn't see what was happening sooner. She said she always noticed how they favored my sister but thought I was okay with it. She apologized for not stepping in sooner and said she's proud of how I've handled everything. My grandfather doesn't care what anyone says about him or his decision. He told me he's proud of how I've dealt with all this, both the accident and my family's betrayal. He said he's giving me the house because I deserve to have someone looking out for me, especially since my own parents failed at that job. The house needs some minor repairs, but my grandfather says we can work on those together once I'm out of the hospital. He's already talking about adding a home office so I can study there and maybe even take some online classes while I recover. For the first time since the accident, I'm actually feeling hopeful about the future. Update 3 months have passed since everything happened, and my life has completely changed. I'm finally out of the hospital and have moved into the beach house. My friends Jake and Mike helped me move last week. They brought their trucks and some other friends from college, and we got everything set up in one day. The house is even more beautiful than I remembered. The sound of waves is so peaceful, especially after spending months in the hospital. Moving wasn't easy with my legs still healing, but my physical therapy is going well. I found a great therapist near the beach house, and my grandfather comes with me to every session. The doctors say I'm recovering faster than expected, though I still need to use crutches for another month. My parents made one final dramatic attempt to get the house back last week. They showed up unannounced with a family lawyer, claiming that my grandfather wasn't mentally competent when he made the transfer. They said they had evidence that I had been pressuring him and taking advantage of his age. Their lawyer started talking about elder abuse and threatened to take legal action. That show didn't last long. My grandfather arrived 20 minutes later with his legal team. Turns out he had security cameras installed after my father's outburst at the hospital, so he knew my parents had shown up. His lawyers had all the paperwork proving he's completely competent, including recent medical evaluations. They also had recordings of my parents trying to pressure him into selling the beach house months before my accident. Their lawyer left pretty quickly after that. I've decided to go completely no contact with my parents and sister. I blocked their numbers and all their social media accounts. They tried creating new accounts to message me, but I blocked those too. My sister's latest attempt at guilt tripping was sending me pictures of my nephew, saying he cries every time they drive past the beach house. They've apparently been driving by regularly, which is kind of creepy. My grandfather has been my rock through all of this. He's helping me transfer to a college closer to the beach house for the next semester. The program is actually better than my current one, and they have a good disability support system that will help while I'm still recovering. He's also been teaching me about house maintenance and budgeting, things my parents never bothered to teach me. The best part is that I've been able to pay back my friend's parents for the hospital bills with the money my grandfather gave me. They didn't want to accept it at first, but I insisted. I'm saving the rest for future medical expenses in college. The drunk driver who hit me was convicted last month and ordered to pay damages, but my grandfather's lawyer says that could take years to process. My sister still sends me long emails about how I've destroyed her family's future. She claims my nephew won't be able to go to college now, he's still one, and both she and her husband have good jobs. Last week, she even tried to get our childhood photos removed from our grandparents' house because I'm not part of the family anymore. My grandfather just laughed and put up more pictures of me. Something my grandfather told me really stuck with me. He said that family isn't about blood or obligation, it's about who shows up when you're broken and hurting. My friends showed up. My grandfather showed up. My parents and sister didn't just fail to show up, they actively tried to hurt me when I was already down. I'm still processing everything that happened, but I'm at peace with my decisions. The beach house is becoming a home, my injuries are healing, and I'm surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. My parents and sister made their choices, and now they have to live with them. As for me, I'm looking forward to building a new life with a family that chose to stand by me. The only thing I regret is not seeing my parents' true colors sooner, but maybe I needed something this extreme to finally understand who they really are. I'm grateful to my grandfather for not just giving me a house, but for showing me what real family looks like.